What if the dreams you dismiss, the anxiety you feel, and the people who unsettle you are all signals from your higher self urging you to awaken? In Carl Jung's depth psychology, these are not random, they're messages. Here's how to decode them. Part 1. The Higher Self in Jungian Psychology. In Jungian depth psychology, the higher self isn't some abstract New Age concept. It's a profound symbol embedded in the psyche's framework, tied to Carl Jung's archetype of the self, one of the most pivotal yet misunderstood elements in analytical psychology. Unlike the ego, the center of your conscious identity, the self embraces the entirety of your psyche, conscious and unconscious alike. To hear your higher self's messages, you must first understand this transcendent core and its subtle operations beneath awareness. 1. The self versus the ego. The ego is what you identify with, your name, beliefs, preferences, your sense of individuality. But the self is far broader, a psychological construct encompassing all you are, what you know and what you've yet to face, accept, or integrate. It's the divine blueprint of your wholeness. While the ego clings to separateness, the self murmurs of purpose, interconnectedness, and meaning. Jung wrote, "The self is not just the center, but the entire circumference, embracing both conscious and unconscious. It's the core of this totality, as the ego is the core of consciousness." Many spiritual traditions call this the soul, inner God, or divine spark. But Jung saw it as psychologically real, your potential, destiny, and truest identity. Ignoring its messages leads to confusion, discontent, or suffering. Aligning with it begins individuation, the journey to wholeness. 2. Individuation, becoming your true self. The higher self doesn't shout her cores. It guides subtly through dreams, synchronicities, inner unrest, existential longing, or even crises. Jung called this guidance the individuation process, not mere personal growth or goal attainment, but the deep psychological journey to your authentic self. It demands confronting your shadow, repressed aspects, recognizing your persona, social mask, and heeding what dreams and the unconscious reveal about your soul's path. This process often begins when the ego falters, when life feels empty, success hollow, or patterns bring pain. That's when the higher self emerges, not as a new voice, but as a long-ignored presence. That tension isn't punishment. It's an invitation. 3rd symbols of the higher self. The higher self speaks in symbols. Jung observed that patients, even those without religious ties, dreamed of mandalas, wise old men, divine children, or sacred animals. Symbols of the self breaking into consciousness. Mandalas, for instance, represent psychic unity, while the wise old man or inner child guides toward wholeness. These images arise unprompted, as if the unconscious seeks to redirect the conscious mind. When repetitive symbols appear in dreams or synchronicities, your higher self is communicating. These aren't literal. They're intuitive metaphors, unbound by linear language. 4. The persona obscures the higher self. If the self is the whole and the ego a fraction, the persona is even less just the mask the ego wears in society. Jung cautioned, that over-identifying with the persona, striving to be the perfect professional, partner, or good person, hollows you out. You mistake the mask for truth. The higher self lies buried under layers of adaptation. You might choose a career because of family expectations, not soul alignment, or marry from fear of loneliness, not love. Each time you suppress truth for external approval, you drift from the self's voice. Yet it persists, sending restlessness, recurring dreams, or existential dread. These aren't failures, they're feedback. Your soul is knocking. 5. Dreams. Direct lines to the self. Jung saw dreams as the royal road to the unconscious, not mere wish fulfillment, as Freud thought, but compensatory mechanisms. If your conscious mind is unbalanced, dreams correct it. For instance, an overly rational person might dream of chaos, being naked in public, drowning, or losing control, symbols of vulnerability the higher self urges you to embrace. Jung's case studies showed that those who took dreams seriously underwent profound shifts, facing fears, grief, or lost parts of themselves. Dreams are your higher self's direct messages, guiding you toward wholeness. 6. Synchronicities. External echoes. Not all messages are internal. Jung coined synchronicity for meaningfully connected non-causal events, like thinking of someone and they call, or dreaming a symbol and seeing it the next day. These aren't coincidences to dismiss, they're mirrors of your inner state. Jung wrote, synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those with eyes to see. When you notice synchronicities, you sense your higher self orchestrating moments to guide or affirm. They don't dictate answers, but nudge through patterns, timing, and resonance. Ignore them, and life may amplify them until you listen. 7. The shadow. Gatekeeper to the self. Here's the paradox. The path to your higher self often starts with your shadow, the denied, feared, or rejected parts of you like anger, jealousy, or even hidden talents and truths. The higher self isn't just light and love, it's your wholeness, including darkness. Until you face your shadow, you project it onto others, perpetuating blame or self-sabotage. The higher self speaks through breakdowns, relationship failures, career collapses, identity crises, not to punish, but to clear space for itself. Confronting the shadow is the accentuating the positive, the gateway to the self. 8. Anima and animus. Bridges to the self. Jung's concepts of the anima, inner feminine in men, and animus, inner masculine in women, are key to the higher self. Integrating your animus sensitivity, or animus's authority, brings you closer to wholeness. A man embracing creativity or a woman asserting boundaries hears the higher self more clearly. This reconciliation of opposites, masculine and feminine, amplifies your inner voice, not through perfection, but through balance. 9. The higher self as compass. The higher self is both a psychological compass and spiritual guide, pointing toward integration and meaning. When aligned, you experience Jung's numinous moments, deeply personal, divinely charged. The higher self seeks wholeness, not perfection, guiding you through discomfort, loss, or chaos to strip away illusions. Its voice is quiet but persistent. The more you listen, the more fluent you become in your soul's language. Part 2. Message 1. You are beyond your ego. In Jungian psychology, the ego is your conscious identity, necessary but limited. Jung warned against over-identifying with it, as it silences the higher self's expansive messages. The first secret: you are more than your ego. This isn't just philosophy. It challenges how you see yourself, your choices, and reality. Ignoring it leads to feeling lost, even amid outward success. The ego's illusion. The ego thrives on control, separateness, and permanence, using denial, projection, or rationalization to protect itself. The higher self, unthreatened by change, guides gently. When it whispers, "You are more than your name, job, or failures," the ego resists, fearing loss of control. This resistance manifests as anxiety or avoidance, sabotaging awakening. Case studies: ego versus soul. Jung's patients, often successful yet despairing, revealed this conflict. A brilliant surgeon dreamed of tied or broken hands, signaling a sacrificed emotional life for achievement. His ego dominated. His self suffered. Jung would say, this is a call to realign with inner truth, beyond the roles you play. Ego inflation's danger. Jung described ego inflation, confusing desires or intellect with divine inspiration, as a psychological and spiritual trap. It leads to grandiosity or narcissism, disconnecting you from the authentic self. The higher self humbles, delivering uncomfortable truths. You've outgrown this identity, or this path isn't your soul's. These messages, though tough, are vital for growth. Humility's role. Hearing "you are more" requires humility, admitting you don't have all answers, that suffering has meaning, that your true self transcends labels. Jung saw humility as strength, the ego bowing to the unconscious wisdom. Instead of "among the positive," ask, "What is life teaching me?" The higher self answers through presence, not control. Part 3. Message 2. Patterns hold clues. When the same emotions, situations, or relationships repeat despite your efforts to change, it's not bad luck. It's your higher self speaking through repetition. These patterns are symbolic lessons from your unconscious, urging you to look deeper. The compulsion to repeat. Jung's compulsion to repeat describes the unconscious drive to recreate old emotional experiences, often from childhood. Feeling ignored in relationships may reflect a childhood wound of invisibility. The higher self uses repetition to highlight unhealed complexes until you face them. Jung's theory of complexes. Complexes are emotionally charged clusters of memories, emotions, and beliefs around core experiences. They act autonomously, hijacking reactions. A rejection complex might make you feel abandoned despite evidence otherwise. Pattern signal complexes running your life. The higher self seeks to help you take control. Examples of patterns. Toxic relationships. Repeated betrayals may reflect a childhood attachment wound, urging healing before choosing again. Sabotaging. Success. Quitting before success may reveal fears of visibility or unworthiness. Health symptoms. Chronic fatigue or migraines may signal an inauthentic life or suppressed truth. Endless seeking, constant dissatisfaction may point to spiritual hunger disguised as ambition. Projection's role. Projection assigns disowned traits to others. Constantly seeing others as judgmental may reflect your inner critic. Attracting needy people may mirror your unacknowledged neediness. Jung said, everything that irritates us about others leads to self-understanding. The higher self uses projection to reveal blind spots. Breaking patterns. Shift from reaction to reflection. Ask, what emotions does this evoke? Have I felt this before? What role am I playing? What belief is reinforced? Viewing patterns as lessons transforms pain into wisdom. Part 4. Message 3. Pain is your path. The higher self's powerful message, the pain you avoid is your transformation starting point. To the ego, pain is a problem. To the higher self, it's an invitation. Jung wrote, there is no consciousness without pain. Your deepest hurts are calls for integration. Pain's symbolism. Depression may signal an outdated ego's collapse. Anxiety, a life misaligned with your soul. Loneliness, a call to self-connection. These aren't dysfunctions, but signposts to your inner truth. The avoidance trap. Modern life offers distractions, scrolling, substances, to numb pain. But avoidance costs authenticity and purpose. The higher self waits, escalating signals until you listen. Shadow work through pain. Your shadow holds repressed pain and power. Facing it, anger, grief, guilt, unlocks healing. Shadow work is befriending banished parts, feeling pain instead of analyzing it, revealing the higher self.